the Instructor podcast with Terry Cook, talking with leaders, innovators, experts and game changers about what drives them.
Welcome to the Instructor podcast. As always, I am your splendid host, Terry Cook, and I'm delighted to be here, and even more delighted that you have chosen to listen to this Christmas Day special episode. And if you are listening on Christmas Day, and I'm sure there won't be many of you, but if you are listening, a very Merry Christmas to you guys in particular. I did debate for quite a while whether to put the episode out on Christmas Day. It's the last one of the year, and I debated for a little while, but I just thought, you know what? Not everyone celebrates Christmas, and also not everyone has someone to celebrate Christmas with. Not everyone is going to have the most amazing time at this Christmas. I know that from past personal experience. So if I could put some out there that maybe cheers a couple of people up, or maybe give someone something to listen to, then hopefully that can be helpful as well. So if you're listening to this on Christmas Day, a very Merry Christmas. If you're listening to it anytime after, I hope you had a great time, whether you celebrate or not. And if you don't celebrate, I just hope you had a tremendous end to the year. And on this episode, I'm joined by a few special guests, and we're going to give you some tips on what you can do in 2023 to maximize yourself, whether that's as a driving school or a driving instructor or whatever kind of category you fall into. But before we go any further, I do just want to mention and point out that this is the last episode of season 4. It's the last episode of the year and the last episode of season 4, and it's been an awesome season. It's been an awesome year, and I just want to take a moment to say a big thank you to everyone that's listened. I get the download stats, obviously. I can go on and see how many people have listened, how many people have downloaded on each particular day, each particular episode, all that kind of stuff. And every time someone listens, that genuinely makes it worthwhile me doing it. So whether you've listened or whether you've commented and shared publicly, whether you're a premium member, whether you've, shared this with your ADI colleagues, whether you've sent me messages of thanks or even negative messages, I genuinely appreciate them all, because it's that kind of stuff that makes it worthwhile doing this podcast. And that's not just for me. I'm pretty sure that anyone that creates this kind of content would have exactly the same sentiment. So if you have enjoyed this and if you have listened, it's a big thank you from me. So coming up on this episode, as I mentioned, I've got a few special guests giving you some top tips. I'm going to give you some top tips, but I'm also going to tell you a little bit about what's coming up for the Instructor podcast in 2023. So as I said, this is the last episode of the season, and then we've got a break for a couple of months. We'll be back in sort of March, April time, around that time, with season 5, bigger and better than ever. But in between now and then, you can expect to see a few things. So this year, I created these short episodes, those little 5-minute episodes, short lessons, I call them, short lessons. And they were taken as inspiration from, now, if you haven't listened to this, I strongly suggest you check out the Diary of a CEO podcast, where basically he goes back into an old episode and finds someone. I think he calls them moments, short moments or something like that. And he takes out little nuggets of wisdom. And that's what I've done, taken it as a short lesson. So from previous episodes, dive in and take out 5 to 10 minutes of content and put that out as a bonus episode. Some of those will be going out over the next few months, as well as the Green Room. The Green Room will still go out most months, at least once a month. Big thank you to Chris Benson as well for that. He has been a superstar this year, helping me with the Green Room, coming on, representing the DITC and providing his usual wealth of knowledge and wisdom. So big thank you to Chris there. So you can expect to see those before the podcast kicks off for season 5. And you'll also hear some exciting stuff that's coming in and around the premium content as well. But before I dive into that, I'm going to give you my tip for 2023. And my big one is one that I think a lot of people will actually agree with, and that is market your business. Market your business in 2023. And the reason why I say I think a lot of people will disagree with that is it's something I see a lot online. People talking about they don't need to advertise, they don't need to market because they've got students coming out of their ears. It's just this wealth of custom, which is brilliant. But at some point, that's going to drop off. So look at our current circumstances, not meaning to be too negative on this Christmas special, but cost of living crisis, cost of fuel, cost of gas, electricity, cost of food, all this kind of stuff. students finding it harder to pay for lessons, all the stuff that's coming up, potentially heading towards a recession. Start marketing now. And by marketing, I don't necessarily mean advertising your driving school and paying hundreds or thousands of pounds for advertising. I mean, sort out your social media pages. So whether it's Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, LinkedIn, whatever you do it on, whether it's for looking for learners or PDIs or ADIs or selling a product, whatever it is, sort out those pages and get them ready and get them active so that if, as and when things drop off, the people will see your page is the one that's been churning out content. Your page is the one they've been going to anyway. And they'll see that rather than someone that's suddenly gone, oh, crap, I've no work. I'd best start putting stuff out now. I know which one I'm going to be going to. So start marketing your school now. Start talking about how awesome you are and showing people how awesome you are. But let's put a pin in that one now and let's hear from our first guest, Bob Morton. And now on this very special Christmas Day edition of the Instructor Podcast, I'm joined by friend of the show and first ever guest of the show, Bob Morton. How are we doing, Bob?
I'm all the better for speaking here, Terry, as ever.
Well,
but then I'm not made of wood, am I?
Well, Merry Christmas, and I hope that you are having a wonderful day, whatever you're doing today. But I do appreciate you joining us, and I'm getting some of you guys to share on a piece of wisdom, a top tip for the industry in 2023. So what would your top tip for instructors be in 2023, do you think?
Well, compliments of the season to you and all of your listeners. A top tip. I think making the switch to coaching is difficult. And I think we need to learn to talk less. So something to try, and in a stationary car to begin with, when you're asking your learner questions or when you're interacting, limit yourself to 20 words. See how you get on. You can say a lot in 20 words, but you can also struggle. It'll help you to see, are you talking too much? Because I think we nearly all do. How's that?
No, it's great because it makes me think, because one of the things and I know everyone doesn't have access to this, but one of the things that's helped me is podcasting. I have to be quiet while you guys speak, otherwise it's a bit crappy show if I'm talking over you all.
Yeah.
So it's actually helped me keep quiet on lessons, which is great. But yeah, I think good shout. And I think that was actually your tip back on that first ever episode as well.
Was it? Oh, wow. Yeah. I'm repeating myself now.
No, that's definitely not a bad thing. Shows it still needs doing. I think you were a bit less tactful then. I think you told us to shut up.
All right, I'll give you a different one. And here's a supplemental one. This is one that I picked up from a coaching book somewhere, which I thought was genius. We need to tune into our learners better. What we do is we ask them questions and we move on when we get the answer we want. But we need to start watching them, observing them, learning to pick up on the unconscious signs, the non-verbals. So get yourself to a pub or a coffee shop or whatever and start watching groups of people. Look at who's talking. Look at the other people around them. How many of those people are actually listening? How many of them are interested in what's being said? How many of them are bored? And then when you've made a note of that, ask yourself the question, how did you know? What was it that told you? You start recognizing these signs when the eyes glaze over and stuff. And then start looking for that in your pupils. It'll let you know whether they're just going, oh, God, he's just ragging on me again. No, to read the non-verbals. Coffee shops are great places to do it. Or pubs, little groups of people. Who's talking? Who's interested? Look at the body language. What tells you they're interested? There you go.
Hey, I think that's another good tip. I think Bob's Christmas tip is go to the pub. There you go.
Absolutely.
How will you be celebrating Christmas, Bob? What are you up to this Christmas?
We'll be quiet down here on the farm, just me and the good lady, and the cats, just having a nice quiet day. Because I'll be girding my loins because tomorrow I'm out with the band. We play carols around the village, and we start at 9 a.m. And last year, at 2 minutes past 9, when we stood outside the first house caroling, somebody came out with a big tray of sherry, and that was the pattern for the rest of the day. So. We finished up in the village, which is probably 5 minutes from my house. I bet it took me 3/4 of an hour to get home.
So those carols got better and better and better, and then worse and worse and worse. I'm guessing. But either way, 2023. Fair enough. Either way, 2023. What does 2023 have in store for Bob and for client-centered learning?
Well, I've decided I was gonna retire, but I get bored too easy. So what I'm gonna do is I'm doing workshops around the place, but I'm not gonna do a massive amount. But there are probably half a dozen workshops around the country. The first one's in Scotland, up in Cumbernauld, 15th of January. You can look at my website and find it. And I'll be dropping some other dates in there. I'm going to attend the instructor shows again, both times for the intelligent instructor and doing the instructor show, the driving instructor show with Mike Spooner. So you can come along and say hi. And I think I'm probably going to do some of the intelligent instructor master classes. I'm penciling for some of those as well. But outside of that, I'll be riding my motorbike and drinking beer.
Well, I will just give another plug
Not
to
at the same time.
No. I will just give a plug to your what do you call them? Your shows when you go out and about, because I've been to one of those and I gained a lot from it, and I think it suits me really well because the way you presentate works really well for me, because you let the people there ask questions, let us engage, but you present, you talk. And then that's what I gain from, because it's like, you're the expert, I'm soaking up that knowledge from you. There's always the option for me to ask questions and interact and engage with you, but it's like I soak up that knowledge from you, and they're the kind of sort of presentations that I work really well with. So if you like that sort of stuff, where can people find out more about that, Bob, if they want to come and visit and watch?
If they go to clientcenteredlearning.co.uk, they'll find on the standards checks /part 3 page, they'll find a list of the workshops. There's just the one listed for January at the moment, but there'll be some more appearing there.
And if they go there, they can also sign up to your lovely subscription as well, can't they?
They can. $29.99 gives you access to absolutely everything. If you're obviously a premium member of the podcast, you get a big discount on that. You get £10 a month off.
Cool. Right. Well, I'm going to despair. I'm going to enjoy the rest of your Christmas, Bob. Thank you for joining us on this very special Christmas Day edition.
Brilliant. All the very best to you and yours, Terry, and we'll see you in the new year.
So big thank you to Bob for giving us his top tip. And as you heard Bob mention up there, that if you sign up to the Instructor Podcast Premium, you get a £10 a month monthly discount off of Bob's client-centered learning. And that's just one of the bonuses for signing up to the Instructor Podcast Premium. So allow me to tell you a little bit about this. As I said, you get a £10 a month discount from Bob, but there are also other people that are endorsing the Instructor Podcast Premium and willing to offer discounts. So you get discounts with places like Go Roadie, the Guild of Mindful Drivers, Coaching for Geeks Turbo, and someone else you may hear later on in this episode, the ADI and PDI Doctor. You actually get a 50% discount if you're a premium member with the ADI PDI Doctor. And we agreed that that's going to continue on through next year. So that's awesome as well. Big thank you to Lee Sperry there. But anyone that is considering the Instructor Podcast Premium or wants to know more about it, don't just sign up for those discounts. There's some great bonuses, but the content over there is quite good, if I say so myself. There's some really awesome stuff. Over the past, 18 months, maybe a year since it's been up, there's over 70, I think, as I release this now, there's 76 exclusive premium shows, podcasts, whatever you want to call them. There's over 70 over there now, and we hit all sorts of topics. So there's stuff on the standards check. There's the standards check checklist where we speak to a different trainer about every competency. And so far, we've spoken to people like Chris Spencer, Kev Field, and Emma Cottington, and Bob. All these awesome people, and we're working his way through all the competencies on the standards check. Another episode we do over there is driving business, which is an episode on how you can grow or establish your driving school in different ways. So there's lots of episodes around those sort of things. But there's also some solo shows that I do. One of the most popular shows over on that premium content is Alternative Routes. It's a short show, 10 to 15 minutes long, where I offer a different perspective on being a driving instructor, something that you may not have considered. And that comes out usually every month, every 2 months as well. But even beyond that, there are 3 regular shows with 3 regular guests that are exclusive to the Instructor Podcast Premium. Bob Morton joins me to talk about being better with Bob, where he gives some insights into how we can be better coaches. San Harper joins me every month to talk about mindfulness, and Robin Bates joins me to talk about growing our audience, whether that's growing our driving school, whether it's looking to grow PDIs or take on ADIs or sell a product. We're looking at growing our audience. So some awesome stuff over there already. We even have things like quarterly Zoom get-togethers, and a new thing I've just started now, which is my favorite thing, and I've had some excellent feedback on, is that Friday feeling. It's just a post I put up on every Friday, a bit of a recap, some tips, some recommendations, that type of stuff. It's going down really well, and it's only £10 a month for all that content, so you get an awful lot of stuff over there. But you should know by now that I don't rest on my laurels, because when I first launched that premium content, my aim, my commitment, and still my commitment, is to give you 2 shows a month, to give you at least 2 shows. So at the minute, you've got over 70 in the back catalogue. My commitment is to give you 2 a month. Most months, there's 4, 5, 6 shows go up in there. So there's an awful lot of content. But as I said, I'm not resting on my laurels. We've just got a new show ready to go in January with the wonderful Nick Oakes, who you may have heard back on season 3, and she's going to come in and talk about SEO and a whole host of other things around that topic, but basically how we can improve our SEO. Best podcast name ever, SEOks. I'm in love with that name. It's the greatest thing ever, and I'm really looking forward to get stuck into that. So that's kicking off in January as well, and there's maybe even another one penciled in for a few months further down the line. So lots of awesome stuff coming over there, and I'm going to let you into a little secret now. Early on next year, we're going to add another level onto that premium content, which is going to include things like masterclasses. I've just got one arranged. I'm not sure if it's going to be the first or the second one, but I've got one arranged to come in for a masterclass on how to teach roundabouts. I've got another one arranged on how to work with people that are neurodiverse. So some awesome masterclasses coming up. And as well as that, there'll be coaching sessions with me where twice a month I'll be opening my Zoom room, for people to come in and join me for some free, or well, not free because it's included in the price, but for some coaching sessions within that. So that's the premium content. So you can see there's loads of awesome stuff over there. And as I said, all that content is only £10 a month. And if you want to go check that out, the best place to find it is www.theinstructorpodcast.com. Head over there, you can click on the premium content and you'll see everything we do, and you'll see how to sign up. Or if you go to the show notes, you'll see the link there. But that leads me on to my next tip for 2023. And this is another one that a lot of people dislike, a lot of people disagree with, but I know you guys don't, because you're currently partaking in it. And that's CPD, continuous professional / personal development. I really kind of see that coming to the forefront this year. There's new things coming out all the time. You heard me mention there about the ADI, PDI doctor. That's come out this year. Lee's giving some brilliant standards check resources and more over there. And I mentioned the 50% discount you get as a premium member. Also this year, we've seen the Guild of Mindful Drivers, and we've seen the Confident Drivers podcast come out. We've seen these two grow. And there's also Kit Magazine. You've seen Mick Knowles rebrand his podcast, which was formerly the Did podcast. That's all been rebranded and developed into Kit. And I hope I'm not butchering that for him when he listens to it. But you can see you've got these new things popping up all over the place. And they're all quality. I think that's the thing. Some of the stuff that's coming into our industry right now is just sheer quality. And we've just got this abundance of choice. And I think that as instructors, my big tip for this year is to go and try some different stuff. So whether it's trying out one of Bob Morton's presentations at one of his workshops, or whether it's having a look at Kit Magazine, or whether it's, signing up for a month for the Instructor Podcast Premium, sign up for a tenner, go take in like the 50 or 60 hours of audio and video we've already got over there for you to partake in. And if you don't like it, you've only spent a tenner and got access to 50 hours of audio. Whatever it is, I would really suggest spending the first few months of 2023 sniffing around and testing out some different CPD and finding what works for you. And I think the other tip just around that side of it is, don't just go for what everyone else goes for. Don't go for what other people tell you for. If you were to try the premium content and don't like it, then leave. I won't take offense at that. It might not be for you. But Find what works for you: audio, video, written content, interactive, whatever it is you need. Find what works for you. So really have a look at your CPD for 2023. And yeah, that'll be my next big tip. But we're now joined by our next guest. You may recognize her from previous podcasts, former student of mine and an all-round general lovely human being, Charlotte Parker.
Hi, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas indeed, and thank you for joining us on this Christmas special. And you're joining us to give driving instructors your favorite tip for 2023 around sort of marketing, that side of it for driving instructors. So what is your big tip for driving instructors in 2023?
So I would say a massive thing in 2023, it's going to be all about short form video. We've known it's brewing all this year. It's going to be even more so in 2023. I think the big thing with that is don't feel overwhelmed to make video with your face in it all the time. Start really simple. Film, maybe if you've got a dash cam, take some clips from your dash cam, include things like that, overlay it into your normal content. Just try any form of video because that's going to be so important, particularly with the generation that will be learning to drive. They'll be all over. Even if you're not on TikTok, you don't have to be on TikTok. This is going to be a thing on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, even wherever you are. Short form video is going to be important.
So yeah, you mentioned TikTok, but I suppose as well that would be reels and stories and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Facebook itself will have a new feature for reels essentially coming soon. So your reels won't go to waste if you put them on Facebook.
And just as one touch on clarity there, when you talk about short form, what sort of time length of video are we talking there?
Yeah, so it's really up for discretion in terms of what the content is. The general rule that we follow now, and the stat is always changing, so it might be outdated by Christmas, but you've essentially got the first 3 seconds to hook someone in. After that point, they're either scrolling away or they've lost interest and they've clicked off the app entirely. So I would say your video can be 10, 15, 20 seconds, maybe up to 30 seconds if the content is really golden. But those first 3 seconds need to be really hook friendly, hook driven. There needs to be a reason that I'm watching the next 10 seconds of this video.
Awesome. Well, that's an awesome tip. It's one I'll make use of, and I'm sure that a lot of instructors listening will make use of. So yeah, it is Christmas. How are you celebrating Christmas this year, Charlotte?
Doing something different this year. I moved out of my family home in 2018 and my last Christmas at home was 2017. So 5 years later, I'm finally going back and doing a Christmas with my parents, which they're super happy about. I'm really looking forward to. I'm sure I'm enjoying it at the minute, but that's what I'll be up to.
You mean we're not actually recording this on Christmas Day? Is that what you're letting slip there? No, but I did want to ask as well, what's next for you? So what does 2023 have in store for you?
Yeah, I think professionally, I've got a new manager at the moment who is going to be incremental to my growth as a marketer. She's so talented. I've got so much to learn from her. She's a great person. So I'm really looking forward to working with her more. And then in my personal life, I'm doing my first long holiday, if you like. I'm doing a 3-week trip to Peru. And I'm going trekking for 5 days, which I'm a little bit nervous for, but really excited about.
Awesome. Well, I hope you have a great Christmas and I hope you have a great 2023. And thank you for joining us on this Christmas special.
Thank you. Merry Christmas.
So big thank you to Charlotte for giving us her tip there. And it's great to get some tips from someone outside of our industry, telling us about what's going on, because it sometimes can be a little bit almost introverted, a little bit insular. So it's great to get those tips from outside. And yeah, I think that video is the way forward in a lot of instances. And it's something I'm going to be doing more of with this podcast, for example. I'm not going to be able to do it every podcast. A lot of people that come on don't want to be on video. They like the fact that they come in and can just be open and don't have to worry about being filmed. And it's just the audio that goes out. So I will never, ever commit to putting out everything on video. But a lot of the stuff I do on premium, a lot of the shows I do with Bob Morton and Robin Bates, they go out on video as well. And you've seen a lot of the stuff I do with Chris Spencer goes on video. So there will be more video going out there. both to premium members and bits going out to the public. Because what I've noticed, that even though this is a podcast, when I release little video clips, actually draws people in more than the actual audio does. So someone goes and sees a video clip of this podcast, they'll often then go and listen to the podcast. So video is definitely a bit of a game changer going forward. And I'm going to give it a shout out now to the wonderful Peter Garbach. He appeared way back on season 2, speaking about video content and how we can make better use of video content and that side of it. I may have to look at getting him back on again to do some more around that, specifically around that short form videos you heard Charlotte talking about there. But go back and check out his episode. Also, go and check out what he's doing now. He's got some awesome offers out. One of the best ones I think he does is where he'll record he'll do an interview with you on camera or over Zoom, and he'll record that interview. Then he'll go away and he'll break it down into all kinds of different chunks that you can use on TikTok and you can use on YouTube, and different lengths of video with subtitles and all that kind of stuff. So definitely go and check out Peter. I mean, I'm sure there's other video guys out there, but Peter's pretty awesome. And I do think that is something that as instructors we can get more involved in. I don't just mean like becoming a video driving school like you see them on YouTube or Instagram or whatever. And I don't just mean that. I'm nothing against those when I say that, by the way. There's definitely a place for them, in my opinion. But why can't you do little short video clips, whether it's using bits of dash cam footage, whether it's, instead of a pass photo, why not have a little 15-second video clip with your student, just a bit of a congratulatory video clip, and if you're nervous about doing videos, if you want it, or going live or anything like that, I'll give you another tip here, something that helped me a few years ago. And before I go any further, I would say I am still nervous about going on video. I am still nervous about going live in the same way. I still get a bit nervous when I hit record on a podcast. But the best way to get over that is just to do it. And I realize that sounds a bit flippant. It's like, just do it or whatever. But just doing it, just getting stuck into it, just give it a go. And maybe trying something you know about. So record a video on something that you're confident about and aim to do it just as 1 minute tops. So all you're doing is going out and giving one driving test tip or one piece of advice on how to do a bay park or whatever it is. You get the idea. One tip on something that you're confident on, and record it and then edit it and then send it out. And there's loads of free editing software. There's editing software that I use that costs like £2 a week or £10 a month or whatever it is. So yeah, highly recommend that we just start doing that and start off with something you're confident about, because it genuinely is. The more you do it, the more you get comfortable doing it. Again, if you're still nervous, think about the advice you'll give to the learners when they first go on a lesson. When they're nervous about driving, when they're nervous about getting the car moving, think the advice you'll give to them about not to worry about other people's thoughts and feelings. We're just going to do it. I'm going to do this little bit. All I'm going to do is sit off from here, go a little bit down the road, then pull up. That's all we're doing. Apply that same advice to you on those videos. So definitely get stuck in. And if you want some advice on any of that, you can always come to me. You can always drop me a message. I'm always willing to have a chat. Again, I'm not the best video person in the world, but I know the basics and I can help you get started and I help you build that confidence as well. So that will be another tip for me going into 2023. But we do have one final guest spot for you. You heard me mention him before. You heard me mention that you do get the 50% discount with the ADI PDI doctor if you sign up to Instructor Podcast Premium, which is quite a hefty discount, and that's rolled over to 2023 as well. So let's check out this next tip for driving instructors. I'm now joined by ADI and PDI doctor Lee Sperry. How are we doing, Lee?
Very well, thank you, Terry. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas indeed. So we're getting a few different people on this episode to give driving instructors their top tip for 2023. So what top tip would you be offering to driving instructors?
Well, I think in terms of, there's going to be many driving instructors that receive the standards check letter through the post, or is it an email now? It's one of those. They're probably expecting it in the coming year. So I thought I'd give a tip on the standards check. And my tip, and I know I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again, is make sure you plan. To change your plan Don't go into the test thinking this is what I'm going to do, this is where I'm going to go, this is what's going to happen, because it isn't. Your learner is triggered by 3 triggers. So the fact that they're at the test center, the fact there's an examiner in the car, and the fact that they want to do well for you, all of which will make them make mistakes that you maybe haven't seen them do for a long time. So if you can get ahead of that and expect that stuff to happen, then you'll already have a plan for what you would do, what you would say, where you would go if those things did happen.
I mean, that's a good shout. And you said at the start that it's something you've said before, but I think that's relevant because that's not just something that you say. I mean, I like the way you phrased it, make your plan to change your plan, but that's not, other people will say that as well. And the fact that, lots of trainers say it, and the fact that you're saying it again and again and again kind of implies that it's something we should be taking notice of. So do you think that's something that you see people making that mistake a lot?
Yes, I mean there's 2 issues really. One is that people don't have a plan that fits the learner's needs, so they kind of try to push a learner into a subject that they'd like to teach. And I know that's been said before, but I see it every single day that I do my Zoom calls. So make sure that the plan is based on something the learner genuinely needs to work on, but also make sure you plan to change that plan, because you can't make a plan for something that happens 10 minutes into the test because it hasn't happened yet. But when it does, need to expect it and then change your plan.
I always look at that a bit like, when a learner goes on a test and they talk about learning test routes. It's like, well, you can go memorize those test routes. So what if you go down one of the routes you've memorized and the road's closed? You're then going to be going a different way. So if you, rather than learn a test route, you learn maybe a bit of the test area to familiarize yourself a little bit, but just essentially learn how to drive. Is that kind of what you're saying? You maybe have an idea, you have the initial plan, like you said, but what you're doing is you're just teaching them essentially.
Yeah, it's the key thing with anticipation is key, isn't it? I mean, even with learner drivers, a learner driver who, when a traffic light suddenly changes to red, are then forced to react to it. Whereas they're being proactive and thinking that light might change. I'm going to check what's behind me. I'm going to be ready to brake. If it did change, I'd stop. Or if it changed now, I would continue. So you've already got a plan. So the instructor version of that is to anticipate what your learner might do next, what you would say if they did, and also be ready to adapt your plan or change your plan completely, depending on the severity of the fault.
Awesome. And I think that's a wise tip, probably not just for the standards check, but just for lessons in general. So, but as we mentioned when I introduced you, you are the ADI and PDI doctor, and that's something that really kicked off in 2022 for you. So do you want to just tell us a little bit about that from 2022 and maybe what you've got coming up in 2023?
So the twin websites were born on Valentine's Day in 2022. So we've got our first birthday coming up relatively in the new year. And it was basically set up to help ADIs and PDIs that were preparing for Part 3 and for standards check, based on a lot of people that weren't successful and were kind of looking around and trying to find answers and sort of panicking. So I'd like to think that, I suppose it's the same with learner drivers, that if you are prepared fully, then you stand a much better chance. So I sort of help people understand the test and how it's marked and how to score well in the key areas, and just allow them to be, as I said, best prepared before they go into it. We also do fully online Part 3 training now as well, which is a new thing that is sort of trialed and worked really, really well. We also do helping people understand kind of a logical way of teaching people to drive based on skills and then implementing those skills into subjects, rather than forcing learners to develop clutch control at T-junctions, which really they don't really have the skill for yet. So we can kind of all that stuff as well. So yeah, looking forward to 2023, continuing to do what I've been doing. We recently opened the Facebook group, which has been really successful in its first couple of weeks, just to give someone an extra avenue to go down. If they need support, they can chat to other PDIs and ADIs on there, or they can message me privately and we can organise some training that way.
Yeah, and I think with that Facebook group as well, it's they can go there to get some free info because you put some useful stuff up there. And I think the other thing and I've said this to you before, I really like the way you write. a lot of posts that I'll read on social media and even blogs and stuff like that, I'll stop after the first paragraph because my brain won't engage, but yours is always quite fluid. And whilst the content is always good with you, but it's also really well written. So yeah, and anyone listening should, at the very least, check out the Facebook group. And but yeah, so where can they find you? Where's the best place to find the ADI or PDI Doctor?
Well, you can find it on Facebook, so you can find the group on Facebook, which is ADI Doctor. My websites are pdidoctor.co.uk for PDIs and adidoctor.co.uk for ADIs. And I'm also on LinkedIn and Twitter and Instagram and anywhere else. So I'm quite easy to find.
Cool. Anything else you want to mention before I let you disappear?
No, just looking forward to the new year, looking forward to Christmas. And as always, thanks to the Instructor podcast, which has been an inspiration to me over the last, 18 months now? But definitely the whole of last year as well.
Yeah, I think it was April 2021 I kicked off around that time. So yeah, probably will be about 18 months. But yes, it's been great to see you develop. And all that's left is I will wish you a Merry Christmas and I look forward to seeing what you do in 2023.
Merry Christmas to you as well, Terry.
So a big thank you to Lee, Charlotte and Bob there. Really appreciate those guys coming on to give a tip to take it to 2023. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I hope you found it useful. I know the last episode of the season is always a little bit different. It's always a little bit self-indulgent. I enjoyed that. I like doing something different as the last episode, especially seeing as this year fell on Christmas Day. So I hope you guys have enjoyed it. And just before I disappear and let you enjoy the rest of your festive period, I want to just give one last thank you. I mentioned at the start, thank you to everyone that's listening. So thank you to you guys that have listened, especially if you listened all the way to the end. If you've made it to the end of the podcast, you know for well that you are my favorite people in the world. But I also want to give a big thank you to everyone that's contributed this year. So obviously, initially, the big shout goes to Chris Spencer and the DITC, the biggest help on the green room I could wish for. Brilliant to have him on, always insightful and puts up with my nonsense quite a lot, which is great. But I'm not going to name them all, but I want to give a shout out to everyone that's appeared this year on the Instructor podcast as well. An awful lot of guests. I do try and get a good variety on there, a mixture of people and products and businesses and different types of people as well. So yeah, big thank you to everyone that's come on. If you would like to appear on this show, I am going to say get in touch with me. I'm always welcome people to get in touch with me, but I am going to put one caveat on that. I need you to tell me why you should come on the show. I do get people asking to come on the show, and then when I say why, what are we going to talk about, they can't really answer. I need an actual pitch. I'm coming on because I can help you with this. I can talk about this or whatever it might be. You need to pitch a show to me. But again, one last time, thank you guys for listening and thank you to everyone that's taken part. And I hope you all have a tremendous 2023.
The Instructor podcast with Terry Cook, talking with leaders, innovators, experts and game changers about what drives them.